Stargazer by Prue McDonell, illustrations by Frantz Kantor. Prologue. As a child, I spent the holidays at my grandmother's place, an old house overlooking a small bay called Silver Water. At the back of the house was a rambling garden with colored paths twisting and turning, struggling to hold back a confusion of roses, violets, daisies, and lilies. Bees buzzed, butterflies fluttered, spiders sunned themselves in the safety of their sticky webs. Fairy wrens darted between pink hibiscus and blue hydrangeas. Currawong melodies filled the heavily scented air. For me as a child, this was a place of enchantment. The garden was filled with flower sprites. Petals adorning each flower became beautiful gowns that swayed in the breeze. My favorite sprite was a Stargazer Lilly. She wore a gown of crinkled pink petals, trimmed with white and sprinkled with crimson dots. Always full of chatter, she told me about her adventures in my grandmother's garden. This is her story. The Spirit of Light. My journey began within the earth. I was curled up, wrapped in darkness. I drifted in and out of dreams. They were always the same. Out of a swirling, brilliant white light, a radiant being would appear. She'd smile at me, then slowly disappear back into the light. I was in a world of shimmering light, cloaked in pale green, fringed with pink. All around me, strange shadowy shapes swayed gently back and forth. The radiant being appeared and said, "Welcome to your new home." "Where am I?" She smiled kindly and replied, "Where you belong." Zante. Wisps of whispers wandered through my mind, calling me to wake up. I opened my eyes and saw 3 sweet creatures chatting excitedly to each other. One of them noticed me and exclaimed, "Oh, Sleepy Sprite, you're awake! Did you hear us calling you? My name is Christabella. I'm the youngest and the prettiest. This is my older sister, Arabella. She's very bossy. My other sister, Rosabella, is rather nosy. We are the Rose Sisters." A dazzling creature with sparkling eyes appeared in front of me. "Are you the being of my dreams?" I asked her. "No, that was the Spirit of Light. She uses dreams to bring sprites hidden within the earth to this enchanted garden. Here, they become beautiful flowers." "Am I a flower?" "Yes," replied Zante. "You are a Stargazer Lily." Sun. A glowing golden orb lit up the sky. The garden was ablaze with light. "Who is that?" I asked Zante. "This is Sun," she replied. Sun must be very powerful to frighten away the darkness, I thought to myself. As the light showered over the garden, flower sprites in their colorful gowns were waking up. They tilted their faces toward Sun, welcoming the new day. Suddenly, the garden was bustling with busyness as curious creatures darted past me, the stillness broken by sounds of buzzing and humming. Zante smiled at me and said, "Sun is very important. He gives us life." "How does he do that?" I asked her. "By bringing warmth and light to us," she replied. I couldn't help wondering if this was real or was I still dreaming? the naming ceremony. I woke up to a day that was dancing with light. Dainty winged creatures circled around me, their silvery voices filling the air. The Rose Sisters were humming to themselves, fussing with their gowns and fluffing their hair. "What's happening?" I asked. Today is your naming ceremony," replied Christabella. "It's very special." "Here is Zante," whispered Rosabella. "She gives names to all the sprites that come to the garden." Zante looked down at me and smiled. In a majestic voice she said, "Welcome to our garden, young flower sprite. This is your naming ceremony. You emerged from the earth as a Stargazer Lilly. I hereby name you Star." I felt rather smug. I had my own name. In celebration, the Rose Sisters showered me with petals, and we drank sweet nectar. The Dewdrop. Christabella was bright and bubbly. She had eyes that twinkled, and her face beamed when she smiled. I began to wonder what I looked like, so I asked her. I guess you look like yourself," she replied. "What do you mean?" The Rose Sisters looked flustered. Arabella blurted out, "I'm not very good at answering questions, Star." Rosabella chimed in, "Too much thinking makes our heads spin and our thoughts get muddled." "Perhaps I can help," said Zante. She pointed to a dewdrop clinging to a leaf. In the droplet of water, I saw a startled face. She had big green eyes and a mop of red curly hair. "Who is this?" I asked. "You are looking at yourself, Star," said Zante. "Dewdrops have the power to show us what we look like." Moon. Sun disappeared, taking the light with him. We were swallowed up by darkness. Fear gripped me. What is happening?" I asked. "Sun is sleeping. He will return," replied Zante calmly. I saw a lady floating above us, wearing a silvery gown that billowed around her. "Star, I would like you to meet my friend Moon," said Zante. "She has come to watch over us while Sun sleeps." I said to Zante, "Moon lives in a garden of sparkling flowers?" "They are called stars," she told me. That night, I dreamt I was a sparkling star in Moon's garden. Fair. I was gazing into the never-ending blue of the sky when Zante called out to me. "Fair has returned to the garden." I saw a rather fragile creature with delicate wings drifting towards us. It alighted on a leaf between Zante and me. "Are you a bird?" I asked. The creature's mouth curled up on each side. Looking slightly amused, he replied, "No, I'm a butterfly." "Star, this is Fair. He's a wanderer," said Zante. "He never stays too long with us." "Where do you go?" I asked him. "I fly to faraway places. This little garden is just a small part of a very big world." My life here with the Rose Sisters and Zante was all I knew. Was it possible that there were other places beyond the garden? "Oh, Fair, I wish I had wings so I could fly away with you." "Star, all you need is your imagination," he replied. "I can take you with me. There is so much to see. Rivers flowing through forests, mountains touching the sky, and fields of flowers that go on forever." I was captivated. Breeze. Whew, the day was sizzling. The Rose Sisters and I were fanning ourselves with leaves to keep cool. I heard a strange swishing sound. The air shivered. A voice came out of nowhere. "Hello, you must be Star. Fair told me all about you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Breeze." How do you know Thayer? I asked, peering around to see where the voice was coming from.
I knew everyone. I am here. I am there. I am everywhere.
Why can't I see you? Breeze chuckled and called out,
I am unseeable.
I was baffled by this invisible creature. Was it possible for Breeze to be real if I couldn't see him?
Aura.
Aura is a spider. The Rose sisters consider her a bit uppity because she never joined in with their chit-chat. As soon as sun arrived, Aura would disappear. Sometimes I would see her peeking through the daisies. When darkness came, she would busily spin silken threads into a delicate web. I told Aura that her home was amazing. To my surprise, she scrambled up beside me and said, "Making webs is what I do best. It is a part of who I am." Well, I think you're wonderful, Aura. From that time onwards, Aura and I were friends. She wasn't uppity at all.
The storm.
Deep purple clouds crowded the sky. Jagged light slashed through the air. Then came a low, threatening rumble. I was scared. Thayer turned up looking serious.
A storm is on its way. It can be frightening if you are alone.
The rain came. It was icy. Thayer wrapped his wings around me. I felt safe and warm. "Thank you for being here for me," I said to Thayer.
Friends look after each other,
he replied with that now familiar smile. I looked for Aura to see if she was all right after the storm. Her web was glistening with raindrops. "Look, Thayer! Aura's web has captured the rain." We're all safe now.
Dana.
It was one of those lazy days when everyone in the garden seemed to be taking a nap, except for a roly-poly creature with lots of teensy-weensy feet crawling along the edge of a leaf between Zante and myself. "Hello, who are you?" I asked. The creature replied in a snappy voice, "I'm Dana the Caterpillar, and I'm very busy. Don't have time to chat." Thayer glided in and landed next to me just as Dana attached herself to the leaf. To our surprise, she was spinning a green cloak around her until she completely disappeared. When we told Zante what had happened, she didn't seem the least bit worried. She said,
Dana is asleep, dreaming of her new life.
Time crawled by. Thayer and I began to think we would never see Dana again. Then suddenly, she shook herself free of her green cloak to become a beautiful butterfly. Thayer, the unflappable, looked flabbergasted.
"Does this mean I was once a caterpillar? How is that possible?"
When Dana saw her new wings, she looked quite bewildered. Thayer flew across to her and said,
"You're a butterfly, just like me. We can leave the earth and become one with the sky."
He took her hand, and together they rose above the garden until they were splashes of orange against the blue. I longed for wings, so I could be as free as they were.
A new life.
One day Thayer, always restless, told me he was going off on one of his adventures. "It's not fair," I complained to Zante. "I'm stuck here, and I'm bored. Have you ever wanted to be somewhere else?" Zante was gazing at the sparkling pond beyond the garden, where butterflies flittered across the water and dragonflies darted through the air. She sighed and said,
I feel that the pond is where I truly belong."
I awoke to a day soaked in light. I did not know that my safe little world was about to be shattered. Out of nowhere came a dark shadow. It slithered over us. The Rose sisters and I huddled together.
Then, with horror, I saw that Zante had vanished. What happened? I asked the Rose sisters, my voice shaking. We don't know, they replied, looking pale and scared. Then Christabella yelled out, I can see Zante. She's by the pond. How is that possible? I asked them. The shadow must have taken her, said Arabella. We were all in shock, just staring at each other. Rosabella reached out and took my hand. There, Star, she said. We'll look after you. Dabbing with my fists at the tears, I cried out, I will be so sad without Zante. It's always sad saying goodbye to friends, said Arabella. Christabella tried to cheer me up. Star, we have to be happy for Zante. She always wanted to be by the pond. I was touched by the Rose sisters, making such an effort to share their thoughts. I hoped it would not send them into a muddle. This was a new life for Zante. I wanted to be happy for her. My sadness lingered until she came to me in a dream and whispered, All you have to do is remember our time together, and I will always be with you. A tiny bit of happiness crept into my heart, and the sadness slowly slipped away. Gillard. I woke to find the Rose sisters in a flap. A new sprite had mysteriously appeared in the place where Zante had been. Hello, I'm Star. Who are you? I can't remember. My head is all fogged up. Where did you come from? I asked him. He stood on his head and squeezed his eyes tightly together. Whatever are you doing? Thinking. I do it better upside down. I hope he doesn't get muddled like us, remarked the Rose sisters. He flipped back onto his feet. I came from the pond. It was cold and gloomy. Goblin blanket sprites don't like the damp. The sprite drank in sun's warmth and light. With a big wide grin on his face, he said, This is delightful. The perfect spot for me. What is your name? Gillard. My friends call me Gilly. I asked Gilly if he knew Zante. Oh, everyone knows Zante. She loves being by the pond. Goodness knows why. It seemed like both Zante and Gilly had found the place where they belonged. All I wanted was to be a butterfly like Fair or a star in Moon's garden. The Return of Fair. Two tiny fairy wrens named Tizzy and Renee started building a nest next to the Rose sisters and me. Christabella said Tizzy made her dizzy as she darted backwards and forwards with bits of grass and twigs. When Aura left her web, she grabbed that as well. I called out to her, Why are you taking away Aura's home? I needed to finish my nest. She won't mind. Tizzy flew off in a flurry and flutter of wings. At that moment, Fair suddenly appeared. He and Tizzy collided. I watched helplessly as Fair tumbled towards the ground. I heard a swishing sound as Breeze arrived just in time to save him. I thought to myself that Breeze must be real, even though he's unseeable. Fair, are you all right? Tizzy is always rushing around. She should watch where she's going. Fair's mouth curled into that nothing-to-worry-about smile. Maybe I should have been more careful, he said. I thought it was rather exciting, chimed in Gilly. Fair was stunned to find that Zante was at the pond, and a new sprite was in her place. He looked worried and said, You must miss Zante. I do, but I know she's happy. My new friend Gilly is a little odd. He thinks best standing on his head, but I like him. What's not to like? Retorted Gilly, his face covered with a cheeky grin. We all laughed. Friends. Fair joined me as Sun was leaving, taking the light with him. Moon arrived, wandering through her sparkling garden. Fair, I've always wondered if I was once a star that had fallen out of the night sky into the darkness of the earth. Could that be how I arrived here?
Well, I was once a caterpillar, so anything is possible.
It was magical, I said, when Dana became a butterfly.
I thought it was rather creepy,
retorted Fair. Fair and I sometimes disagree, but it didn't matter. We'd always be the best of friends. Aura was still miffed at Tizzy for taking her web. She created a new one between Gilly and me, where the fairy wrens couldn't find her. I think I've always been a spider, said Aura as she settled into her new home. I can't remember being anything else. It must feel good to know yourself, I said a little wistfully.
Well, I know for sure who I am, said Gilly. I'm a livable chatterbox who can be a bit annoying.
Oh, yeah, we know, giggled the Rose sisters as they snuggled down for the night. Sweet dreams, Star, called out Christabella. Zante had said those same words to me. I felt a fleeting sadness. I was about to go to sleep when Tizzy started flapping about. Renee was flitting from one branch to another, saying,
"Oh gosh! Golly gosh!"
I looked into their nest and was delighted to see that the eggs had hatched. The nest was overflowing with baby fairy wrens. They were making quite a racket. "Renee, the babies need to be fed," said Tizzy. She dashed off with Renee close behind her. "How can we sleep with all that noise?" chorused the Rose sisters, burrowing down into their petals. Fortunately, Tizzy and Renee soon returned to feed the babies. They fell asleep, bathed in Moon's gentle light.
The journey.
My journey from within the earth to the enchanted garden has been full of surprises. When I arrived, I didn't know who I was or why I was here. Zante had said, "Each of us is a puzzle. You will discover who you are from the creatures in the garden." Zante also taught me about the beings that look after us. Sun arrives every day bringing light. Moon, in her garden of sparkling stars, watches over us while Sun sleeps. I've made many friends here in the enchanted garden. Aura spins wondrous webs. It's a part of who she is. The Rose sisters try really hard not to think, in case they get into a muddle. Gilly is always standing on his head, so he must do a lot of thinking. Tizzy is rushing about feeding her brood of babies, while Renee takes lots of little naps. Looking after growing fairy wrens is a lot of work. Fair has gone back to being unflappable. He goes off on his adventures and returns with tales of faraway places. Dana often comes to see us. We never did tell her that she was once a caterpillar. Breeze is still unseeable. I often dream of being a butterfly with pink wings trimmed with white and sprinkled with crimson dots. I soar into the darkness where I turn into the brightest star in Moon's